This is what life's all about, my beautiful friends. Mother Nature, peace and tranquility, acceptance, compassion. Oh, the owls of the insect world. Alright, I'm just going to be checking out some older buildings, flowing around these images, and I like to do a lot of screenshots and document to see where these locations are at so we could further investigate. Starforts. Definitely documenting as many starforts as I can so I can later investigate deeper. I'm finding some interesting images of the Statue of Liberty, so I'm going to snap as many shots as I can of that. What I'm noticing is that the base of the Statue of Liberty is a starfort. We know that, especially deep in the community of tapping into this, the mud flood and the lost archival history and the Tartarian starfort, ancient architecture, lost architecture community. But the starfort I'm seeing in older photos is looking different, and then it's almost been like the whole starfort has been rebuilt. So I'm looking into that. I want to find any images I can. Vintage pictorial map of New York City. Now that's pretty beautiful. So anything that really truly just piques my eye's interest at this time is old Cliff House in San Francisco. That's pretty interesting as a vintage shot because I was living in San Francisco for the past 13 years. So kind of seeing these images right now, but here's one that I did snap a shot of earlier. I'll show more images of that and what I think of it. And I'm enjoying shots like this as well. So any shots of our old amazing flying machines. So we'll download that. Jump back. There's a beautiful starfort. Love that shot. Here we go. We're at the top of this page. Let's see what we can do here. Let's head back and see what else we could find. There's images of starforts. This looks really beautiful. I want to capture real images and also old renderings, because a lot of times I believe those visionary artists who did these were actually depicting what they were seeing. And this looks beautiful. Swimming pools at Sutro Bath, San Francisco. And yeah, that was a marvel in itself, the Sutro Bath complex. And what's this? I mean, look at this building. And what are they saying it is? The hotel designed by Warren. So it's 42nd Street and Lexington Avenue, New York City. The hotel was built to, and they leave us there, but massive hotel we're looking at. And okay, the images are starting to run out there, but oh, look at that. I kind of do find myself wanting to look at this and see what it is. What are they going to say about this? Museum, Science Industrial, Chicago Getty, the Columbian Exposition, the Women's Building in the Columbian Exposition. We'll just snap a shot of that, download that, because that's just too much. The Columbian Exposition and these pillars and everything they have going on there is just phenomenal. And I always like to look at these pictures of NASA and their fake CGI madness. What's going on here? Looks like some old destruction. These might have been where the old flying ships would enter, the old Hindenburg, whatever they called them, the blimps. But that's a beautiful image, and it's not really giving us much information on this image at all, so I'll have to further investigate what's going on there. This is sad. This is destruction right here, and this is what we're talking about. This is the Great Reset. This is SF wasn't so sure, right? Yeah, they weren't so sure of this beautiful architecture, right? I mean, Yeah, of course, right? We might as well destroy it. Let's go on a worldwide United Nation ancient heritage destruction, um, pillaging all of the sacred architecture of this beautiful land. This beautiful, what's this right here? This looks like a celebration of taking something down. And big props and much respect to John Levy and the work that he's done. You know, I've been awakened by his videos for over 8 years now, I believe. But this looks like destruction right here, and I'm gonna go ahead and download this image. But this is what we see over and over again, just a destruction of our beautiful ancient heritage that we were supposed to inherit. And maybe someone has stolen all this information, or someone has um, basically archived it. You know, some people might say it's all hidden in a sacred library archive that's hidden somewhere. I don't even need to mention the names of this place where the information might be hidden, but it's what it all kind of points at, you know. Almost like a raping and a pillaging of the land and all of the information, and then archiving of it, and then slowly feeding it back to humanity, like little cookies of technology, as we slowly get to access these new technologies. And look at this. This is really beautiful. Pan Pacific International Exposition. I was not gonna say that this had anything to do with any of the world fairs. I thought this was definitely something ancient and beyond where my mind could grasp at this time. But now they're gonna go ahead and give this as this is an image of, this is San Francisco, 1915. I mean, if this image doesn't shock you to your core, then I don't know what will. I mean, this is just phenomenal. And the moment I saw this image, I would have never, ever envisioned that this was San Francisco. So bear with me as we keep scrolling through. That image is phenomenal, and we'll see more either building, construction, or destruction. And what do you see here? This looks like a demolishing of another sacred building. San Francisco in ruins. Yeah, okay. So 1906. This is obviously apparently after they started destroying what was left of the beautiful old world. We'll save that image as well. It's just too good. Too much evidence here visually, you know, for us to look at, or us to at least to look deeper. So can further investigate this topic. So once again, any images that truly stand out, and we'll go ahead and see what this looks like San Francisco again, but this is another image that I do want to capture. And there it is. Unbelievable. 1915, the Pan Pacific International Exposition. So it's really interesting because the earthquake happened, I'm gonna have to look it up, 1906, and they're saying this is December 4th, 1915. So that would mean in 9 years they rebuilt this, or I'm gonna have to do some research to further investigate what is going on with this and how this could have ever been destroyed. It just has my mind blown. This is just one of those things that's hard for humanity to try and, it's hard for my mind to accept it. I don't know how humanity is going to receive this information. Most people don't look back at these old images, and we just go along with the narrative, and we go along with what the history books have indoctrinated us with. And in all reality, I don't feel like many people look back. We just kind of believe what the controllers have, spoon-fed us with the what do they want to call it, the Rockefeller history books. And this right here, the University at Buffalo. So yeah, this is another exposition, and if you look at the architecture in these expositions, it's hard for your mind to grasp at what they were doing in the old world. And look at this image. This looks great. I do like to capture these. This looks like it might have been an old hot air balloon. Before motion pictures, there were many ways for people to experience something they had never seen before. These visual extravaganzas created by innovative and imaginative showmen were often named using the Greek suffix rama, meaning a sight or a view, to help sell tickets to the next big thing. So yeah, this was a visual rendering, someone's vision of what's to come, and this was obviously possibly selling blimp rides, to where they could actually get these old aerial views, and where the artist could actually then render our maps and give us our continents and our masses of land, where we could actually see examining architecture, neighborhoods, history, design, and preservation. I don't exactly know what World Fair this is from, but once again, you see this beautiful, extremely potent architecture and dedication to art, and I really like this. This is beautiful. We'll see what information it has here. British Library Collection of Photography Illustrated Books. We'll snap a shot of this because this is just phenomenal. This looks like it was possibly inherited, or someone must have received this as a gift, or they found it as a treasure. It looks too much like it has patina to it, some age. So we'll keep scanning through all these images, and this is more destruction, and I don't know what this is, where this is. Crystal Palace, cast iron and plate glass building in London to house the Great Exhibition of 1851. After the exhibition, the building was rebuilt in an enlarged form on Penge Common next to Sydney. There's more an influent South London suburb full of large villas, and stood there from 1854 until the destruction by fire in 1936. So this is actually images of destruction, and a lot of those, you gotta wonder how glass palaces burned down. And look at this image right here. This is a really special looking Pan America exposition, but just the beauty that is hidden within the architecture, and how much more visually stimulating and activating it was, I believe, to us back then. I mean, look at this, and look at what it does for us. It holds visual Akashic history. It holds visually stimulating geometric precision. It holds, encoded within it, it holds a story that connects us to our past. And when this is all destroyed, what do you have left? You have images left. You can't necessarily go and feel the energy, feel the geomancy of these sacred locations in their full spectrum if they've destroyed these beautiful earth architectural mandalas that they've created. Now we're stuck with just grasping at what they were doing when they created these powerful architectural masterpieces, and what we all believe were our antiquitech, and they were part of their circuitry that was plugged into the Earth's grid, and they were accessing the energy, the free energy, like Tesla was, right? Free energy that is accessible to us at all times. And so when you see these domes and these pillars, and how much intention to detail was put into the way that these seem to source energy, and the types of materials that they're using, the copper domes on the rooftops, and the ways that they're conducting the energy and directing the energy, and there's always a flow of water that's flowing and also carrying and programming that information and that technology, allowing that technology to flow from one place to another. So a lot of it had to do with activating the water, the living waters. Look at this photo right here. In 1893, the World Columbian Exposition in Chicago. And if you look further into these world fairs, I'm going to go ahead and save this image, you'll start to see that some of them had over 100 structures, over 100 buildings that were dedicated to different marvels. almost as if completely just inherited, and then we need to come up with some sort of an idea on what to do with these sacred buildings after we've inherited them. And so they maybe have been renamed, and then here we go, just another view. I love this 1893, how much energy was put into creating this beauty. And so it leaves us questioning the narrative, and questioning, and look at this is great, because this is all propaganda. It looks like it. I mean, almost photoshopped even too. We'll see. I'm going to snapshot this and do more research into this. This is probably one of the glass palaces that were burned down. I mean, another one of the architectural marvels of this world, as they were creating these glass palaces that actually were growing. They were creating an environment inside that could grow things 10 times as fast, tropical environments inside these little glass palaces. And so why would they ever want to destroy them unless they didn't want us to still access this technology? And one more of the Columbian Exposition, World's Fair, 1893, lit up at night. Just unbelievable image. And we'll go deeper and see what else we can find. I mean, look at the architecture that we see here. And this is Old World Catholic Basilica. And interesting. Yeah, this is probably destroyed now, but we can look into it and see what's left of this Old World architecture and dig deeper, and we'll see. I like where this photo feed is taking me. That's why I'm further investigating what I'm seeing here. But look at what they're offering us. This obelisk right here looks phenomenal, and just unbelievable. And so I appreciate these energetic vortexes and these obelisks that they're putting, and usually they'll be centered in a really sacred location where everything will be expanding from this location in almost geometric precision if you see an aerial view. And what I'll do is I'll go ahead and snap a screenshot of that, and what we can do later in another video is we can further investigate what it looks like from an aerial view as we investigate this obelisk here, because this one is truly beautiful and seems that it has a lot of potential. And now it's taking me down another rabbit hole as we get access to more and more of this beautiful architecture, these pillars. And I've been doing a little bit of research, and what they're starting to feel that if you actually take a horseshoe magnet and you anchor in each polarity, especially anchored into the earth, you will have a stable magnetic point that is infinitely giving off a magnetic pull, a magnetic power. And in that central location inside of these two magnetic poles, you might have an amplification of energy. And so what we see here is a possible device. Is we might see a device also hidden within the architecture, and then obviously the art depicted on the architecture itself is telling a story. So it would lead us to further investigate what story is to be told on some of these ancient statues and ancient vortex points that are very much dedicated and put in sacred locations on this planet. And that would open our eyes to much more. It would open our eyes to an ancient culture that had access to an aerial view of this planet and had enough time to pre-plan such architecture and such vast expansion of their knowledge and their information of how to build this way, because the further that you investigate this topic, you'll see that this architecture, this Greek, Greco-Roman, ancient, very sacred, very similar looking architecture, is found all over the world. And they knew what they were doing. This is a really special image. I can't believe they're going aerial with this. I don't even know if I can download the image, but I'll try that again. That was phenomenal. Here it is. Download, please. Nope, it won't even let me. This is just too good. So I'll move on. But you can see what I'm saying when you further investigate this topic and why we want to look at older images and older renderings and compare them to what we see now, where we can basically try and visually articulate our way through these little gems that have been left behind. So as we further investigate, this is right here. This is another one of those images that might just shock you because of how beautiful and how much dedication was put into these half domes. And I'm going to snap a shot of this and do more research into this and try and even understand how and who built these water fountains that look like there is possibly over 100 spouts, and when this was made. And here's another image of it. So this is nice. I appreciate this. At least they're leaving us these old images. And you can only imagine that this location was possibly demolished and destroyed because of its architectural beauty and the hidden treasure of knowledge that was encoded within this sacred ancient archaeology. Because it all seems to hold information, and it seems like in the past what we wanted to do when we wanted something to be documented and kept on this planet is we would engrave it into stone, or we would try and preserve it in some way. So this looks interesting. In 1922, Hugo Gernsback envisioned a 1,000 foot tall concrete monument. This is interesting. We'll snap a shot of this just because this is kind of where their minds were going in 1922. And you can see where they took our education system at a certain time as well. Because I think you can actually see, if you look at generation to generation, you'll start to see a regulation of our education and the expansion of our consciousness and what they were going to allow and how much they wanted our consciousness to expand as creators on this planet, or how much they wanted us to limit our consciousness as creators on this planet, as they wanted to be a controller of your consciousness, it would seem, as the education system itself might be in some way limiting to the expansion of our consciousness and our free will as humans on this planet. To what I mean by that is some people are limited by feeling that they don't have a degree. A degree in archaeology may limit them from actually going and following their true passion in something. And that's because now they feel a blockage that they can't necessarily fulfill a passion that they have because they don't have a degree in archaeology. But what does that do? That limits our block. It's a block inside of us that's not going to allow us to accomplish our dreams. And these are just old images. This looks like an old painting, but I wanted to document this. It seems like this artist painted this in the 1900s, and this place is already in ruins. And look at these beautiful images and carvings on this pillar here. So you can only imagine the amount of information that was in this, and destroyed by what? Earthquakes or war, because a lot of the times, a lot of this architecture, they say, was destroyed by fires and devastation, natural devastation. But the further you look into it, you'll see that certain monuments stayed up and were not damaged in any way. And then other locations were just destroyed. They were just, I mean, you gotta imagine that those were destroyed on purpose. It wasn't like, it accidentally fell down from a little earthquake. Um, so yeah, I like these old images. I really do like these old drawings. I have to check the validity of them, but this is a good photo right here, and it looks like a good merging of the old world and the new world, right next to each other. This is just unbelievable, and we'll snap a shot of that just to further investigate it, because it's got a lot of energy, and it does even look old already. It's not like that looks like a new image. Here's some a great representation of Antiquitech and the way that you can actually access atmospheric energy. And so even just a simple scientific test of putting a copper rod into the earth and sending it up, I think they said 300 meters. I know that sounds really high, because that would be like 900 feet, but I mean, look at the size of these people, and look at the size of these sacred Antiquitech monuments. And you gotta wonder, were they accessing atmospheric energy? And they also had a fountain, which water and the flow of water could be electric amplifier and conductor of that flowing electricity or energy. So you gotta think maybe they're working with atmospheric energy combined with water, H2O, hydrogen. I mean, there's many different ways that they could be accessing possibly hydrogen. And I don't know what that thought just came through right now, because I just was thinking atmospheric energy, and I'm looking at where these devices are always set up next to water, and you got to think, okay, atmospheric energy, water, H2O, oxygen, hydrogen. Maybe they're somehow accessing the hydrogen from the atmospheric energy. Maybe those two electric devices together could create something where we can access hydrogen energy, and maybe it could be infinite because of the way that we're accessing the elemental energy there, and not limits to how much of this energy we can access. I mean, I'm getting kind of blown away by these images. I'm like, is this even real? And this is. I don't know where this is. It looks like it's probably somewhere in Germany or Russia, but I'm gonna snap a shot of that because that's just unbelievable. And I did actually get blessed to go to Spain, the old world, in 2012, and once again in 2014. And I was blessed to actually go inside of one of their sacred sites, and I was taken to the side of a massive mountain, and you wouldn't believe it, but the side of this mountain opened up into a whole, almost like cathedral. And when you entered the side of this mountain, the inside was all marble, and there was gold glass cases everywhere with ancient treasures filled. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I think I have old video footage of it, and luckily I do. This is old. This is 2012, when we had a handheld video recorder that took an actual tape reel on it. This was before digital times, and believe it or not, we do go back before digital times, and back to even just having the simplicity of a pager. And look at this image right here. But when we do go think how fast our technology has expanded and what we've been gifted, in a sense, it's almost like I'm going to get into the Great Reset. It's almost like all of the information has been hijacked, and look how advanced we were. And all this information and technology may just have been stolen from us, and it may just have literally been kept in some form of archive, where they slowly are now giving us back access to this technology that we had, and they enjoy giving it to us in little pieces, as they can then feel the power of patenting and owning the ownership of this knowledge, this free knowledge that should be accessible to us all at all times. And this all just has us questioning our past and the given narrative that seems to be held. And I don't know if I snapped a screenshot of this image, but I do truly appreciate that and think that that image is amazing. And look at this. You gotta wonder, what world fair was this? And here it is, the Panama Pacific. And this one's a little bit like 1915, so this is San Francisco. Okay, this is great, and I love these images of San Francisco. Because I've walked this land. I skateboard on this land. I many times have explored. I've rode my bike throughout this whole city. I've explored all throughout these cliffs, and I could just be lost in a wonder of ancient architecture if they would have left this all up. And I would believe that I would have actually been very much stimulated and consciously activated, almost as if I went to school in one of those sacred castles like Cambridge or Harvard. And the further that you look into that, you'll start to see that all of the elite education systems that are held on high prestige are actually castles and ancient vortexes. They're basically architecture that's built into the geomantic energy grid point of this planet to allow you to access the Earth's consciousness easier, for you to access the high vibrations that could allow you to be healthier. I mean, all these things that you can access from just being near this sacred architecture. And that's what took me down that rabbit hole, because I look at this and I see visually pleasing, visually aesthetic and visually pleasing architecture that would activate me by just being around it. And notice that for whatever reason, they say that this all burned down in 1906, or, we'll have to look further into that narrative of the Great Reset and when and why everything on this planet was destroyed at a certain time, and why it might actually correlate to even what is happening right now, as we all have to look deeper into, is it possible that this could be happening again right now? We have to think, because this is also a great awakening right now. This is a time period when we are all sharing information at such an exponential rate that, they even believe that it's very possible that the point of singularity may be very, very close, or we may have already reached it. And, that topic in itself would be a topic of, is AI and artificial intelligence actually reading my mind right now? Are they accessing my facial expressions right now through the screen? Are they reading my eyes and my iris? And are they reading how I think? Are they reading brainwave patterns and frequencies that we emit? How advanced are we looking at this point when we talk about AI and artificial intelligence? Because I'm sure that I could say a few words anywhere near one of our devices, and soon enough that topic will be presented to me. So we know that something's either happening where the intelligence of AI is documenting everything we say, but there's also research and studies that have been done that are saying that the artificial intelligence and the video cameras that are always constantly looking at us are now reading up to something like 2,600 different facial expressions that we make at any given time. And they are actually documenting the way that we feel, because they want to know what they can feed us, or they want to know what we will buy that will make us feel happier. All these things that we need to question right now as we come into this new timeline of artificial intelligence having somewhat seemingly a form of control or a place in our reality that it's taking. So look at this. So we must further investigate this and start to ask ourselves, are we going to submit to this new world, or are we going to rewrite our Akashic timeline, and are we going to visualize and collectively come together in community and create our own reality and share our information that we've acquired through our research to understand that we have these capabilities to access this level of consciousness again. And we don't need to look at old bland architecture like this. And I mean, this is still truly beautiful. I'm actually, I can't believe I even mocked this a little bit, but I'm going to document this image. But what I do want to express is that it's not as advanced as something like this, and something that we are looking at, which is from our past. And every image that we do see is actually a piece of visual confirmation of our Akashic history and our timeline that has been reset. And so you can almost just enjoy going down the rabbit hole of these visually stimulating images, so we can kind of grasp at a true vision of our past. And we don't have to think that we came out of a cave and evolved as from cavemen. And we can understand that we actually, why do you feel such an intelligence deep within you? Why do you feel an artistic inspiration that flows through you? Because we are the creators. We are connected to this past lineage, this bloodline of beautiful architecture and intelligence, and the way that we basically knew how to build in harmony with this beautiful planet, and to create sacred geometric star forts and geometric structures that would harness this energy in harmony, because we're supposed to coexist on this planet. And everyone says that we are like, I don't even want to use the stupid word, a virus, but that's not true, because if you examine the human body and you break down the Fibonacci ratio that is actually found, and the phi ratio that is found in all of Mother Nature, it's found in all plants, and where they splice their next form of growth, their next node of life, and the geometric precision on how infinite fractals will expand. So we look into that, and we actually find those exact ratios are found in the human body. And another confirmation that would guarantee us that we are part of the fractal of life here on this beautiful planet is just the fact we can come together as one male and one female, and we can create another being. And so that right there shows you that we were gifted to be a part of the fractal of life here on this planet. And that's just me going off on a tangent and some of my theories, but this is all just ways that we look at life and our reality and find confirmations of why we're here. And we're not told by some hierarchy or authority why we are important or why we're not. So it's a knowing, and something that we know inside when we have access to this past knowledge that they held here, and that you see, that you can visually attune to. And what's this aerial view here of? This looks like Paris, right? Of course it is. And this was probably Paris old world, right, before they destroyed some of this other architecture that might be here. And this is just me speculating, because I'm jumping around, and I'm obviously a part of the team reset. And so I do quickly examine these and make judgments and whatnot, because of how much of this has been destroyed, and how much I find passion in actually wanting to figure out how and why this could have ever been destroyed. This is another exposition, and the Watergate at the 1893 World's Fair and exposition in Chicago. So look at that. And how is it possible for something like this to burn down, is what you question and ask yourself. These look like marble pillars. They look like something that was meant to be there for a long time. And here we look at some of the architecture from the old world, and this is still somewhat brutalism in the sense how square it is, but it actually has the Gothic and more intricate look to it the further that you investigate, and you'll see that this is much more than just brutalism. There was so much added to this, made basically Antiquitech has been built into this. Different forms of geometry that might be harnessing that ether energy, right? Atmospheric energy. And you look at the size of these buildings and realize that these buildings are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 20 stories tall with Antiquitech. So you got to think that these are reaching the heights where we needed to access this atmospheric energy. And here's another great depiction or a perfect image of the old world tech. And I'm going to snap a shot of that again because you can see what they're doing here, and a perfect representation of having to reach as high as you can with your technology so you can access atmospheric energy and possibly send that atmospheric energy now down to every one of these amplified fractal coils. So when you look into it, it visually kind of explains itself in some way, and you understand why people are touching base and tapping into this topic of the old world technology, the old world architecture, because it goes hand in hand when you start to see the architecture matching the technology. And you see that the technology was around the time of when Tesla and his information was being suppressed, and Thomas Edison took the reins. And we see it might have been around that time when the Great Reset was put into effect, and they literally knew that they had to do something fast to basically destroy any evidence that we were in one time aligned with accessing and gifting humanity free atmospheric energy. And what better way to destroy it or get rid of it than just destroy all the architecture that was tuned in and connected to the grid? And then, of course, to create enough manipulation through propaganda to destroy and convince us to no longer use this type of energy. And we all know the myths and the stories that were told about how Thomas Edison had electrocuted an elephant in Times Square to basically show how horrible atmospheric energy could be and how dangerous it was, but it was very much directed. He directed the atmospheric energy and the amplification of that much energy to one point and location, which we obviously know we can control, and we can manipulate where this energy goes and flows. So you see some manipulation already happening there when it comes down to the narrative and what they were trying to do to take us off of accessing free energy. And so we can call them out on that, and we can further investigate what these buildings were. And here we go. This looks like New York City, and it is. And if you're blessed to be able to visit this city, I would say go investigate some of the old world tech that you see around this beautiful city, and look at the aerial views of New York and understand what they did when they created the architecture of even the layout of that city. And look at this old world magic right here. So I want to know where this is in New York City. And obviously this I would love. I'm going to visit New York. I know there's a lot of old world tech that's still up. I know there's myths of obelisks that were actually taken from Egypt and were taken on ship over and were meant to make it all the way to New York by the Freemasons, and they accidentally dropped that obelisk in the water, in the ocean. This is one of the stories that kind of blew my mind from back in the day, and they actually retrieved this lost obelisk from the bottom of the ocean. And I remember thinking of the time period on when they had lost this obelisk, and it didn't make sense to me that they had the technology to get and retrieve something from underneath the ocean like that, especially the size of an obelisk. So to me, that really shook me and was like, well, no, something else is going on here. And this is great. This looks like something special out of the old world, and this is Germany. And you know, when we look at these images, we do look and think that Germany does have old world all over it. So we honor them for basically keeping, preserving, giving us access to visual confirmations in the physical form that we may still see here, and say, wow, thank you for preserving this amazing architecture. And what am I doing? I'm just kind of zooming through and I'm seeing what visually activates me and what can I document here to confirm some of this old world tech. And as a researcher, someone who doesn't necessarily take the narrative that is given, and this looks almost photoshopped. I don't know what this is right here. Photoshop, photographer from the 1920s. Rooftoping photographers have gotten a lot of attention and notoriety in recent days for climbing to extreme height points in cities and shooting photos. This is phenomenal. This is just amazing. This to me is one of our great heroes, someone who actually, in some way, it might have been one of the great artists of our past who, at the forefront of how we access some of these beautiful images from such a high level. But here we go. This looks like it's not coming in. Sorry about that. Sometimes the internet up here, we don't have the best internet, so some of these images might be limited. But look at this old building. And I think we'll kind of wrap it up here, but I'm enjoying digging deep. So we'll leave it at that. If you enjoy my videos, if you enjoy the information that we're providing, go ahead and share, like, and subscribe. We have many other passions and things that we're working on right now, and we're going to be delivering to humanity and articulating it in the best way. So stay tuned, and I'm in the middle of working and setting up a Patreon so we can all stay connected. You can have access to some of this personal work that I'm doing, some of the secret stuff that I don't necessarily want to share with the world yet. And through Patreon, I think we can set up some sort of a exciting system where, as a prospector and a treasure hunter and amateur archaeologist, we have access to some of the Earth's treasures and miracles. And I'm going to capture this image. And with Patreon, I think we'll find exciting ways to give people access to the crystals that we find at each different location when we go to prospect at different locations. And you'll get access to insider information that I may never want to share, or I may be a little bit intimidated to share due to just feeling intimidated by the authorities and how they try and limit what we're allowed to access and the information we're allowed to access at this time. So through Patreon, I think there may be a way that we can kind of share some of the magic and keep it exciting, and you can kind of join me along for the ride. So stay tuned. This is one of my first videos that I'm doing dedicated to this topic, but as a researcher, I have been deeply into this topic for almost 2 years, just the topic of ancient architecture and truly the anomaly that is occurring when we look into our narrative here that we are being told. Look at this. And I've been into many other topics, doing deep research, so I have an archive, a visual library that I'm going to slowly share with the world through my videos. And some of the topics are along the lines of geocentricity, old maps, lost and hidden continents, breakaway civilizations, Antarctica, of course, the sacred stones from Ojuelos de Jalisco, the alien, almost Sumerian like tablets and alien engravings that are being found on sacred stones and tablets of a vast of over 20 to 30,000 documented. So we will get into these other topics and much more as we further investigate the Earth story. And we don't like to call it history anymore because his story seems to be very much indoctrinated and it seems to be a controlled narrative. So we're going to rewrite that word, and I would like to even call it the Akashic history, the Akashic story, and or the Earth story. So that's how we're going to access the truth, our divine truths, and I do truly believe that we access our divine truths through personal experiences that we have in this lifetime. So I would suggest that you do the same because at this time it seems that there is a narrative being pushed where people are taking information from an authority over being guided by their own sovereignty or their own inner guidance. So, anyways, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for watching. Like I said, share, like, and subscribe, and hit a clip note if you need there, and we'll stay tuned. Big blessings. You can follow me on Instagram at Stargate Keys or Ancient Aztlan. That's ANCIENT AZTLAN. That's my investigation into the ancient stones of Ojuelos de Jalisco. Thank you for listening to me talk and sharing some beautiful images that give us confirmations of our past. And look at this. And the reason that we go through images like this is because when we look at our past and the narrative and the history that we're told that we came from horse and buggy and the Depression, and what we see here is almost thousands of years worth of artistic skills and knowledge being handed down and handcrafted in a timeline when war and destruction probably wasn't at the forefront of our reality, and where we as master crafters and creators of this beautiful reality were at the forefront of creation and sharing our artistic passion even built into our architecture, as you can see. So don't want to get lost on a tangent, but it just gets me excited when I see these beautiful confirmations of our past. So stay tuned. Thank you for watching.
like my video, please hit the thumbs up button and share, like, and subscribe, and I will continue to bring you consciously evolving new content that will open up your mind and will inspire the sovereign explorer within you to step outside the confines of our busy everyday reality to explore the mysteries that this life has to offer. Thank you.